Good evening, all, ladies and gentlemen. Today, as we delve into the far-reaching implications of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, it's imperative to recognize that this crisis transcends territorial disputes, effectively cleaving the world into two ideological divides. One could see a clear division between the West and South while evaluating the Ukraine and Russia-related issues. History has repeatedly underscored that war rarely serves as a solution. Instead, it invariably causes many more intricate problems. As I address this pivotal issue on the global geopolitical stage, namely the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the subsequent political tensions, my objective is to provide a distinctive perspective from the global South. We must acknowledge that this conflict has profound repercussions, echoing far beyond the immediate theater of war. The Russian incursion into Ukraine has far-reaching and indirect consequences of the populations of the global South. Indirectly, this conflict has contributed to a surge in price for essential commodities like food, energy, fertilizers, potentially impacting a social cohesion and increasing poverty levels in regions distant from the battlegrounds. Broader implications could entail shifts in foreign aid priorities and a global geopolitical realignment involving Russia's allies and adversaries. The conflict in Ukraine has caused immeasurable suffering, displacing countless individuals from their homes and causing extensive devastation. This tragedy resonates with people across the globe, and it's our moral obligation to extend humanitarian assistance. According to reports from the United Nations, this conflict has resulted in over 14,400 deaths, thus far including 3,404 civilians. Among them, there are more than 306 foreigners. Naturally, this war has affected the trade. Countries like Indonesia and Lebanon heavily rely on Ukraine for various resources. The war in Ukraine has strongly affected the food sector, which has disrupted wheat and fertilizers imports into Indonesia. Ukraine is also one of the largest producers of critical minerals and metals like iron, titanium, and germanium, and which are indispensable in the electronics industry. Ukraine has also played a pivotal role in producing neon, krypton, wheat, and agricultural fertilizers. As the world's largest wheat exporter, a primary producer of barley and buckwheat, and a significantly supplier of agricultural fertilizers, Russia occupies a central position in global trade. The repercussions of this conflict and international sanctions are poised to lead a shortage and price escalations across various sectors worldwide. The ongoing tensions between Russia and Western countries have cast a shadow of uncertainty over international trade, fostering inflation and economic hardships. This adversity is particularly harmful to nations in the global South that aspire to attain economic growth and elevate living standards. Nations from the global South mustn't be coerced into choosing sides in this conflict. I believe they must be free to make decisions that serve the best interest of their citizens, and we should respect their choices. Collaboration, equity, and diplomacy are indispensable as we navigate this crisis, working collectively to unearth peaceful resolutions and ensure that voices and concerns of these nations are duly acknowledged. When we talk about the economic impacts, the conflict has increased prices for essential commodities, mainly such as food, energy, making it increasingly difficult for individuals, especially in the global South, to afford necessities. Russia is the world's largest wheat exporter and top producer of barley and buckwheat, which they also supply to Egypt, Turkey, and Bangladesh. Russia is also a very key exporter of agricultural fertilizers, 18% of the world's potassium and 20% of its ammonia. Russia mining industry is the first in global diamond production, second in platinum, third in gold, and fourth in silver. Russia is also the supplier for natural gas and the second largest oil exporter. Countries like Germany heavily rely on Russian gas to meet their energy needs. Since Russia faces severe international sanctions for its invasion and retaliates by suspending its key exports, shortage and higher prices in a key are likely to be felt worldwide. The conflict has sent shockwaves throughout the global trade landscape. affecting the availability and cost of goods and disrupting supply chains, which in turn has hampered production and business. The conflict has introduced a wheel of uncertainty into the global economy, causing business to hesitate in investigating or expanding due to the uncertain future, potentially retarding economic growth. When we talk about the long-term effects, in the long run, the war could instigate substantial changes in the global economic order, including shifts in energy trade dynamics, alterations in supply chains, and transformations in international business practices, all of which may exert enduring effects on the global economic landscape. Concerning the potential motivations and beneficiary of this conflict, it is essential to acknowledge that ongoing propaganda from both sides complicates efforts to ascertain the truth. Nonetheless, two investigative reports offer intriguing insights. One report highlights China's significant purchase of liquefied natural gas before the conflict, suggesting the foreknowledge of Russia's impending attack and raising questions about China's potential role in influencing the timing of the competition. The second report focused on China's acquisition and stockpiling of wheat beyond its quota, hinting at possible anticipation of a significant disruption in wheat production in Ukraine during the conflict, which could be led to global wheat shortage and naturally price spikes. These reports provide thought-provoking perspectives on the multifaceted nature of the conflict, though the actual truth still needs to be discovered. Additionally, sabotage of gas pipelines and geopolitical maneuvers have further muddied the waters. It is crucial to scrutinize who gains from these events, as the destruction of gas pipelines could favor the United States by diminishing Europe's reliance on Russian gas and bolstering American LNG sales. The Russian invasion of Ukraine pushed crude oil prices to a 14-year high and similarly impacted European gas prices. Naturally, it has benefited the Middle East countries, mainly like Saudi Arabia. There has been a flurry of discussion about the lack of support that the United States and its European allies have received from the global South. For much of the first year of the war, there was a sense of relief and even triumphalism about the West unity in response to the Russian invasion. Many in Europe and US ought to be wondered, convinced Russia was isolated, or that what others beyond the West thought hardly even mattered. Yes, there is a growing realization that global South has not supported the West. Many from the South believe that the West is dominating and demanding, and those days are over. Finally, more thoughtful commentators have started questioning the West's approach. They suggest the West should stop lecturing and treat developing countries as partners. Many developing nations want to end the war mainly because of the catastrophic disruptions and highs in commodity and food prices. Over the 12 months, the West turned in on itself. Commentators now openly express contempt for the global South in a way that would have been hard to imagine a year ago. For instance, naturally, Lithuania called off a donation of a COVID-19 vaccines to Bangladesh, one of the world's poorest countries, because it had abstained in a UN vote of the Russian invasion. The biggest question is whether this war is creating a new powerhouse from the South to counter the dominations of the West. Many from the West have raised doubts that the major countries from the South, mainly India, China, and South Africa, silently support Russia and take advantage of the war. In the face of the destructive forces of the war, let's remember that pursuing peace is not merely an option, but our moral imperative. We must stand together, transcending divisions and working tirelessly to halt the devastation caused by the conflict. Let peace be our guiding light and unite to end the suffering and striving war inflicts upon the world. Together we can pave the way for the future where dialogue, diplomacy, and understanding prevail over violence and conflict. Thank you.